All right, so let's get started. So, welcome to this course of probability and statistics for computer science. So, today is the first class. I will make all the announcements. So, my name is Satyanath. So, I'm a new faculty at IIT Goa. So I think the connection can be a problem sometimes. So whenever you are going out of connection, just to know for us, just make a note of how long the problem persisted, and thereafter we will see what can be done. Okay, so yeah, so it's unfortunate that we have to do this over online, but I think the situation dictates this. So yeah, so uh, however, that being said, even though it's online, me and faculty at IIT Goa, we will make sure that your learning is not compromised in any way, and we will put all efforts from our side, whatever it is required, so that you don't lose out. So that's the thing. So we will try. So what I need you from all of you is that if you have any problems during the course of this course, if there is some suggestion, something that I can help you with, do let me know. Okay, so this is difficult times, but yeah, I think we have to make do with whatever we can do, and then just go along with that. So okay, so let me get started. So let's just talk briefly about the course. So let me share my screen with you all. Okay, so this is the course plan for this course. So there are two segments to this course. There is the undergraduate segment, which is CS 230, and then there is the postgraduate segment, which is CS 561. And ideally we would have done this over two different courses, but much of the structure, much of the things that we are going to speak about is common between the two. The way we will distinguish postgraduate students is that we will have more projects and more reading assignments and things like that. Our undergraduate students are having a lot more course to do, so we will keep it a little bit easier for them. So however, that being said, this is an important course, and as I said, we don't want to compromise on what you learn in this course. So we will try our best so that you learn this. This is a very important fundamental course, and we'll ensure that all of you learn this well. Okay, so this is the weekly. The classes, as you might already know, will be held. Two live classes will be held on Mondays and Tuesdays. And besides this, so the thing is, we cannot conduct this the way we would have done the usual lectures, which is like the teacher comes in and goes through the material all during the class, and then students work on the assignments. Unfortunately, that format of instructions is not effective here. So what we are going to do instead is that I will make announcements every week about 2 or 3 hours of online lectures that you watch during the week. So by the week I mean week starting from Wednesday all the way till Monday. So from Wednesday to Sunday, you have time to watch 2 or 3 lectures, which I will share the link with you. And then the following Monday and Tuesday, we will discuss problems, we will discuss programming assignment, we will discuss tutorial style lectures and all these things, and we will also recap what has happened in the online lectures, and all these things we will do. So 2 or 3 hours of online lectures for you to watch at home, and then 2 hours of live lectures that we will discuss those material. Now, as I told you, there are two segments for this course. There is an undergraduate segment, there is a postgraduate segment. So all of them have these two things which are common. So we will have class participation. So class participation includes your attendance in this live lectures. Besides that, it also includes your participations and whatever interactions that you may do in the live lectures. The reason is, I mean, this has to come naturally, but since it's online lecture, what happens is I begin to feel that I'm speaking to an empty room, speaking by myself. So an interaction keeps the class little alive, and it allows me to correct any mistakes. Yeah. So then, okay, so see, for example, at this moment, I have to check if I'm still online. So yeah, so looks like everything is going well. So yep, so that is the reason why we have this class participation component. So besides that, we will have quiz. These quizzes will be short 15-minute quizzes which will be held in an online manner. So this will be announced ahead of time, and what we will do is we will take the best 3 out of 5. Then we will also have weekly assignments and midterm exams and final exams. So the PG students also have these 5 segments. In addition to that, we will have projects for them. So the projects will be something that some research paper that they need to do, they need to read and then implement it. Okay, so that's the only difference that will be there. And for PG students, I might conduct a few additional classes so that they can get comfortable with the projects that they are going to do. All right. So is there any questions on course evaluation? Yes. Okay, thank you. So then okay, so what we will do is based on the material that you have been seeing, and based on the tutorials that I am doing, and work that we assign you to do during one of the lectures, either on Monday or Tuesday, last 15 minutes there will be a quiz. The quiz will be like a multiple choice or fill in the blanks, like that type of a quiz, where you just sit. We will share the link and you just sit and share and submit it. So it will be a timed quiz, so you will have some time to do it, and then when you finish the quiz, the class will end for that day. And so we will do 5 of these quizzes. So there are totally 13 weeks that are planned for this semester. So we will have 5 quizzes appropriately spaced, which will be based on the modules that we have here, right? So based on each of this module, we will have a quiz. So perhaps the last module may or may not have a quiz. So anyway, so each of this module will have a quiz, and then yeah, so that will be during the last 15 minutes of either Monday or Tuesday. We will make it, we will announce it so that it's not a surprise or anything. We will just announce it, and then you just take that quiz, and the class ends at that. So that's the quiz. So we will totally give 5 quizzes. We will take the best 3 out of the 5. I hope I answered your question. Okay, so besides that, we will have weekly assignments. So these assignments will not be very difficult, they'll be quite easy. So you just this will allow you to just keep in touch with the material. Maybe if it is weekly is proving to be too difficult, we will like give bi-weekly or something. So depending upon how it goes, I will periodically ask for how your schedule is, and then depending on that we will do this. So this assignment will be having 2 components. There will be some programming, and then there will be some written assignments. So the questions will be announced ahead of time. I might make it like group assignments if I feel like that, but probably for this level of course maybe it's better to have individual level. We will decide that soon. Yeah, so that's weekly assignment. And then midterm exam, the dates for the midterm week is already announced. So it is 19th October to 24th October. So somewhere within that you will have the midterm. So let me just make a note of this. So this is 19th October to 24th October. Okay. And the final exam, if I have this is going to be somewhere in 15 December to 20 December. Okay, so there will be totally 13 weeks of instruction. So yeah, so now so having got all the course evaluation out of the way, we know that it's easy for some of the students. I mean, I'm sure most students don't do this, but there could be some students who may not be honest, so who may collaborate with their friends and so on. So there are ways in which we can find this out. I mean, how that happens is there is some edit distance, and then we can look at your answers and the type of mistakes that you make. So yeah, go ahead. What we will do is that so for example today, please I will send a query as to how many people had any internet disturbances, but the quiz will not be data intensive. So quiz will be like your Gmail, so it shouldn't have a problem. If it happens, we will have you take another quiz. Okay, so you will not lose out due to your internet connectivity. We will not let that happen for this course. Is that okay, Nitin? Did I answer your question? Yeah. So nobody is going to be penalized because their internet connectivity is bad. If you have any problems, you have to let me know, and I will find some ways to handle it. If nothing, we will just have a phone call and you can answer some questions instead of the quiz. Okay. So it's yeah. So as I said, it's difficult times, but we cannot sacrifice your education, right? So we will do whatever it required to help you with that. Okay, so having said that, whatever support you need, we have it, but please don't indulge in any unfair practices. So it's not good for you, not just because it's unfair for your classmates, but this is a fundamental course, so this will be used everywhere. Okay, I mean, it is absolutely no exaggeration when I say that this is the center of all these modern science that's happening, even including physics, chemistry, all kinds of places this is used. So if you cheat here, you are actually cheating yourself. So please don't do that. So if you have any difficulty in terms of understanding of the material, we have two TAs, Rajat and Varun, whose details I have shared. You have my time, you can just message me and we can talk, we can discuss. So yeah, so don't do any other things. Anyway, so the textbooks for this course, it's this this is a textbook for which is available online. Some link is there from where you can download this. There are 3 textbooks that I have listed. So what I will do is I will pick material from all these 3 textbooks in some way or the other, and we will discuss that. So for the skeleton of this course, what I'm going to, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I will share this. So I will share at the end of this class, I will share it with all of you, this document, so that you have it. So I'm just going over this document so that there are no questions, but I will share it with you at the end of this class. Okay. Yeah. So so these are the 3 textbooks. These links you can go to, and I suggest you go to, as soon as I share this document, you just when you get time, download all the 3 textbooks and keep it with you, and then I will keep referring to these textbooks. So if at all you want to buy any of these textbooks, I think there is a scheme which IIT Goa is offering, like you can buy this textbooks if it is within 1,000, and then you can get it reimbursed. So I would recommend to go with textbook number 2, because as far as I understand, this textbook is available in the Indian edition. However, since the soft copies are already there, you may not have to really buy it. It's up to you. But this second textbook is really good. So it covers much more than what is required for this course. Perhaps some materials that we are going to touch in this course will not be there in this. For instance, statistics will not be there in this module, but it has some other things which are very useful. So this is a good book to have. Okay, so I will share this document with you. So now what I was saying is that we have a particular course that we want to follow. So the reason being, Sitsiklis, the instructor for this course, is MIT Open courseware course. Sitsiklis is he's a very good teacher, and he has a course which seems to be like tailor-made for our purposes. So what we will do is we will use his course. I will share some of the lectures from this person's course that you see here, and then you can watch based on what I tell every week. You can watch a few of these courses, and then later on during our tutorial session we will discuss like some problems, some programming around this, so that you understand the material better. So now this is one strategy that I wish to follow, because the alternate strategies I can teach all the material again, but then in the absence of a real class which is quizzing me, it might be not such a good effective model, right? So that's why I decided to like follow this course for you to watch in your own time, and then I will discuss material along with this course. So also what I'm doing is I will this is just a promise, because some of these things are not under our control. I will try to record the course as every week that we meet. I will try to record it, and I will try to upload it in YouTube. So for instance, it is doing right now, so that whatever I speak is also available for you. So I will try to do that as well. So I don't know how successful I will be with that. Yeah, so this is about all the course course details. Is there anything that I'm missing here? Anybody has any questions on this document? I will share the document with you. Okay, so looks like people are comfortable. So just quickly let me see how many people are in the class right now. Okay, that's decent. All right. Cool. Okay. So there were some questions. Yeah, so the question related to the quiz I have answered. Yeah. Okay, good. So let's discuss some material for today. So yeah, so let's just go over what is probability. So the course is called Probability and Statistics. Probability and Statistics. Okay, and the course finds application, believe me or not, it will find application naturally in engineering, like in communication networks, in your electrical engineering, signals and signal processing, and so on. So it finds application in engineering. So it finds application in computer science. You will see that, I mean, if you have to analyze what is known as quicksort, an algorithm that you will see some point, which we will also do, you need to use tools from probability and statistics. Okay, so you will have applications here. You will have applications in management science. Okay, so here, for example, if you want to do any planning, right? Suppose if you have if you start a new company, right? Suppose like a company like Flipkart. So what you need to do is you need to predict what kind of demands are there, what kinds of supplies are there, and so on. So how does probability and statistics help? The way probability and statistics help is this field itself is a way of thinking about uncertainties. Okay. Now, if you take the example of planning, so if you have a company like Flipkart, let's say, and it needs to account for uncertainties that it faces. So what are the kind of uncertainties it has? So things like demand, right? What type of demand it sees per state, for example, state or per city, right? Then you have their suppliers. So suppliers, even though they may be well established, sometimes what happens is their factory is down. So the production that they are able to meet are depending upon the raw materials available. So this itself is random, right? So then there are other clauses. For example, if you have bad weather or if some road network is down. So all these kinds of things they have to account for before they decide where in the country they will set up. What is the decision they are making? Where to set up their distribution plants. Okay, so this is, so in the field of management science also you will see that there will be a lot of applications like this. In computer science we will analyze things like quicksort and all these kind of randomized algorithms. Okay, so for that you need probability. Okay, and engineering you have basically signal processing. Okay, and then communication networks and so on. So probability and statistics is a way of thinking about uncertainties. It's a mathematical model of thinking of uncertainty. So instead of saying way, let me just qualify it by adding it's a mathematical model. Okay. So now what other applications do we have? Then of course we have things like physical sciences, physical and social sciences. Okay, then we may want to talk about, for example, in the field of medicines, right? So for instance, right, if let's say now we know that there is a pandemic going on. Okay, so now if you catch, let's say if you have a new drug, okay, so let's say there is a new drug in the market. So how do you assess whether that new drug works, right? How do you assess it? Let me just see if anyone has any comments on this. So so let's say I come up with a new candidate drug and then I want to know whether it is useful to cure this disease. So how do we go about it? Anyone has any views? Okay, so with that logic, it is possible, but there is one flaw in that. So there is something called as a placebo effect. So what this means is that when you are telling people that you are giving them a medicine, the very fact that they feel little little happier, little relieved, that itself has a tendency to cure the disease sometimes, right? So this randomized picking group is fine, but what you typically do is that you need to divide the population into two groups. One is called control, another one is called treatment. Okay, now what you do is you don't tell people in the control group that they are in the control group, and what you do is you give the identical looking medicine to both these groups. The control group only receives sugar pills or salt pills or something which is absolutely useless. The treatment group actually receives the chemical pharmaceutical. So this receives the treatment, this receives a placebo. Okay, now what you do is you measure the treatment outcome, like you see how long before the person was like, let's say this group, it was like the average survival rate was, let's say 0.9, and this was, let's say 1%. Okay, so let's say maybe we will make it little efficacy, let us give it to the drug, it's 0.7%. So now can we say that this is the medicine is actually working? So the survival rate has improved, right? So there were 0.9% people were dying in the placebo group or the control group, and 0.7% were dying in the treatment group. Can we say that the drug is good? So for the answering these kind of questions, so I will just answer it myself. We need to know what is called as confidence intervals. Okay, so these things we will learn when we learn statistics. Okay, so another example let me give here. Okay, another example is exit polls, right? Okay, so let me again ask. So let's say in the year when was the election? 2020. Okay, 2024. When the election happens again, how do I do exit polls? How many? First question is whom to ask. Second question is how many, and then the third question is what do you conclude? So can I ask again the class, whom do we ask for the exit polls? Yes, so everyone has this right. So we have to ask random voters. That makes sense, because if you ask, let's say if you go to a particular political party's office and then ask people there, you will get a biased sample. That is called as a biased sample. Okay, so we have to have what is called as unbiased sample. So that is this. These are all the terms that are formally explained in statistics. So now the question is how many. So what do you think? How many should we ask? How do we make a judgment on this? Anybody? Okay. So India's population is 1.35 billion. So let's say how much percentage would you like to do for this? Okay. So that's okay. That's it's fair enough. All of the points that you have told is decent. I got okay. Let me admit somebody. Okay, so whatever you said, all of these things make sense. But let me present you one practical thing that may happen. So let us say there is a particular constituency. Let us say I don't want to name any parties or anything. So let's say this constituency is let's say South Goa, and let's say party A and party B are the major contestants. So you have surveyed, let us say, 1,000 people here, and you are getting 990 people are for party A, 5 people are for party B, and then others are the rest 5%. So now as per your plan, so one of the ideas that you told is like depending upon the population I should do. What happens is that if I go by just that, maybe I'm supposed to do for 10,000 people. Does it make sense to do another 9,000 because already you can see that there is a clear consensus emerging? Can we not stop at this point? Do you see the problem here? Yeah. So yes. So South Goa is one constituency there, and from that South Goa, I have picked 1,000 people at random, not particular from any place. So I'm trying to find out who is going to win South Goa, right? That's what I'm planning to do. So when I do it, is based on the population. If I have to do, I have to do 10,000. But if I do only 1,000, I'm getting a clear consensus. So should I continue? Because if I continue, that means I'm going to incur more costs, right? So why, if we want to get perfect result, we ask everybody that is the perfect. So why are we not asking everybody? Because we want to get cost reduction and we should be able to tell quickly the answer. Okay. So do we continue? If we ever come to this situation, do we continue or do we stop? What does your common sense say? Exactly. So that doesn't make sense, because if you keep continuing, you're going to just incur costs. However, let's say North Goa was so that when you did even 10,000, okay, let's say North Goa was the case that you did 10,000. So 10,000 people you were supposed to do, but what you got is you got 5,023 for one party and 4,977 for another party. So when you have this close result, you have to do more. Okay. So this is where the idea of statistics will be used. So we have to improve. So this case is one situation, this situation is another extreme. So we may have to change depending upon how it goes. So all these ideas of how to conduct, for example, clinical trials, the first example, how to do exit polls, all these things are firmly rooted in the theory of probability and statistics. Okay. And now, besides all of this, right now the most important and hot area is machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? So let's write AI. So all of this, if you see anything that comes here, so there are broadly this area is classified into, machine learning is classified into supervised and unsupervised, supervised ML and unsupervised ML. Okay, so supervised ML actually is so if you take, there are two types of problems. We don't need to know any details here, you just listen to the words that I'm going to say here. So you have things called as regression, you have things called as classification. Okay, so regression is actually is a expected conditional expectation. So it's basically, you don't know, I know you don't know what this means, but it's a conditional expectation. It is one of the things that we discuss in detail in this class. Similarly, classification is a conditional probability. So this XD is the feature. So you really don't know what this is, but we will get to this in detail. So all of these things, supervised, unsupervised, all of these things are concepts that have been studied for a very long time in statistics, and they have been used for quite some time before this machine learning and AI hype started. So probability and statistics outdates all of these fields. It has been there for hundreds of years. Okay, so what we are going to do now is, like, when we learn, so why this field has emerged so much right now is because we have got computational power, which was lagging before. So that's the only thing, but we have to still learn the theory behind it well. Okay, it's anytime you have a problem in these ML algorithms, your knowledge of probability and statistics is what is going to help you. So even unsupervised is clustering algorithms, even those are studied in the realm of probability through Gaussian mixture models, through k-means, through EM, and so on. So everything that you see here has been invented in probability and statistics, and we will be learning the core of all of these in this particular class. Okay, so this is all the applications and things of this course. So now that I hope I have convinced you that this is an important subject to study. So let's get into, I have run through 35 minutes of the class. So let me just pause and see if people have any comments or questions, and otherwise I will continue a little bit more today before we stop. So is everything all right? Are people able to hear my voice well? Okay, good. All right, so this is nice. Thanks all. Okay, so let's think a little bit more on this. So So now I told you that probability is a mathematical model of thinking about uncertainties. Okay. So what is this? This is a mathematical model. Okay. So now let's try to look at simple examples of the uncertainties that we are dealing, and let's try to form what are called as the axioms of probability. Okay, axioms of probability. And these axioms are something that is very natural, and I hope I will be able to convince you by the end of today's class that these axioms are reasonable. Okay. So let's talk about experiments where there are uncertainties. So let's pick the first experiment. So let's say the first easiest experiment that you can think of is coin toss. Okay, coin toss of a fair coin. So what is a fair coin? A fair coin is one, first of all, it has heads as well as tails on both sides. Okay, and the chance that you get a head is same as the chance that you get a tail. Okay, so now the first question that you can answer is what is called as the sample space. So let's so sample space or omega is basically all the possible outcomes that can happen when you do a coin toss. So it can be a head or a tail. Is that clear? So sample space is all possible outcomes that can happen when you do the experiment. So the experiment was to do a coin toss of a fair coin, and the sample space is head or tail. So similar in the same line, which all of you are familiar, is throwing a die. Okay. So now what is a sample space here? So this is a Greek letter called as omega. Okay, and you just write it like this, omega. Okay, so now the sample space for throwing a dice, what are this? So you can have outcomes which are having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, so this is a sample space when you throw dice. What else? Yeah, so now you can have compound experiments. So what you can do is two coin tosses simultaneously. Two coin toss simultaneously. So I'm just giving multiple examples so that you understand that each outcome that you see in each of these experiments is together, when you collect them all, forms what is called as a sample space. So when you do two coin tosses, there are two outcomes that you can have. For example, you can have both heads, or you can have head tail, or you can have tail head, or you can have tail tail. Okay. So whenever you want to think about uncertainty, the first thing that you need to do is to find out what are all the possible outcomes that can happen and put them together in what is called as a sample space, which is omega, which is essentially collection of all mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive outcomes. Somebody has a question? Yeah. Yes, you are right. So if both the coins are connected in some way, so suppose the coins are like this, you have a bar which connects them. So then if you do such an experiment, you will have only head head and tail tail, right? Is that what you are asking? Yeah, but the thing is, there is something called as the first coin and the second coin. So two coins are tossed simultaneously, but there is a first coin, let's say, which is 5 rupee coin, and the second coin is a 1 rupee coin. So then the first coin outcome is head and the second coin outcome is tail. But if they are yeah, okay. So sample space is actually a collection of yes, I will do that. So what mutually exclusive means is that every outcome, once it happens, so for instance, if head outcome happens, there is no way tail head outcome simultaneously happens, right? So that is what mutually exclusive means. So any outcome, if I say when I throw a dice, 1 comes, there is no way any other thing has come. So the very fact that 1 has come, that means none of these 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 has come, right? It's a very silly thing, but that is what is called as a mutually exclusive event. I mean, mutually exclusive outcome, right? Do I answer your question about mutually exclusive? Is that clear to everybody? Yes. So now coming to the second part of this discussion. So mutually exclusive is saying one happening prevents the other from happening. Collectively exhaustive means the entire set, when you take together, collects all possible outcomes. Nothing is left out. Okay. So everything is covered. So this is talking about coverage. So let me write here. This is coverage. Okay. And this is exclusivity. So let me repeat again. So a sample space is a collection of mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive outcomes. Okay. What that means is you don't miss out any outcome. Every outcome that is possible, you list it. So that is coverage. And what collectively exhaustive means is the outcomes are atomic, which means that if one outcome happens, it prevents any other outcome from happening. So let me write that word, atomic. So what is an atom? I mean, now we know that we can split atom, but in the past, atom was considered undivisible. It was considered indivisible, right? So that's what it is, what I'm trying to say. So mutually exclusive thing is, you cannot simplify it further. Okay. And collectively exhaustive covers everything. Does that answer the questions here on the sample space? Okay. So now so now this is not enough, right? So what we have done is we have only collected all the sample space outcomes, but we still haven't talked about the uncertainties. So that is where the second part comes in. So the second part is called as a probability. It's called as probability law. What it does is it takes the event, okay, and tells what is the probability of that event happening. So let me give you an example. So let's say if you look at this coin toss experiment. So if I ask you what is the probability of getting a head, so assuming that the coin is fair, which means it is not constructed in a biased way, so that each outcome can equally, so suppose this coin is used in IPL, you would expect that you get probability 1/2 for getting this outcome. Similarly, probability of tail is also 1/2. Okay. So event is basically telling you what is the probability that a particular collection of outcomes, what's the probability of that happening. Okay. So that is called as an event. So what is event? So event, okay, is actually a subset of omega or sample space. So let me give you some more examples. So if you look at let's say the third experiment, doing the 2 coin tosses simultaneously. Now I can ask you I can define an event E, which is equal to which are all the outcomes such that I get one head, exactly one head. So what are all the outcomes which exactly have one head? Can someone tell me? In this experiment number 3. Exactly. So this is basically the event that we are going to talk about, head tail and tail head. Okay, so now let's look at some more events just to get some idea. So second event that I can talk about is at least one head. So what that means, you either get one head or you get two heads. So what are the events here? Okay, so that's the way you can do. Now what we are supposed to do is we have to assign probability to this, each of this set. Now probability is a number. So our first law that we are going to say is that probability is a number greater than 0. So essentially whenever you think of probability, think of like what is the proportion of time that event happens. Proportion of event A happens. Okay, so that is exactly what you have to think about whenever someone says probability. So the first law says that the proportion has to be greater than 0, right? That makes sense. So if I do an experiment 100 times, you don't expect -5 times the event to happen, right? So the event has to happen at least once or twice or thrice or whatever it is, but it has to be greater than 0. Okay, that is the first. Now second thing that we are going to say is that the probability of entire omega or the sample space happening, that is going to be 1. Okay, which means given that you have collectively exhaustive, right, you have the coverage, you have got this coverage. Since you have the coverage, if you are considering all the events, all the outcomes together as a event, okay, so suppose if I say what's the probability that I get a head or a tail, right? So I'm saying both head is permitted as well as tail is permitted. It has to happen. It won't be the case that the coin will stop on its rim, right? That we have not considered as an outcome. Okay, so probability of omega, which is like collection of all the events that are possible, all the outcomes that are possible, is going to be 1. So this is the second law, second axiom. So these are the axioms that we are listing. The first axiom is non-negativity. The second axiom is this for omega, the entire sample space probability. And the third one is called as mutually exclusive events. So let's try to understand this. So one of the ways that you can think about probability in the future, every time then when you come across this, is to basically consider a Venn diagram. Okay, so is there anyone who is not familiar with a Venn diagram? Okay, good. So Venn diagram is basically a representation of sets. Okay, so what you do is essentially you look at the event. So this Venn diagram is actually omega. Your entire sample space is omega. And let's suppose there are two events like this. Can somebody tell me what is the property of these events A and B? Yes, so what it means is in the set theory definition, that means A intersection B is empty. Okay, and it also means in probability language, it means whatever this he said, it is mutually exclusive. Remember, we used this mutually exclusive term before here in the case of each outcomes. So likewise, whenever A happens, B won't happen. Whenever B happens, A won't happen. So when you have, suppose A intersection B is empty, then probability of A union B. Basically now I'm asking what is the probability that either A or B happens. Okay, so probability of A or B is equal to P of A plus P of B. So this is the third law. Is there any question so far? So what we will do now is we will stop here. If there are no questions, we will stop here. So right now I have said that they are not intersecting, right? So A intersection B is not happening. So that means whenever, so imagine like if I tell you if it, okay, we will do this tomorrow because there is some, okay, someone's audio is pretty loud, so can you mute it, Nitin? Okay, sorry, I was not able to hear anything. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Uh, Okay, so the two coin tosses when you are doing simultaneously, if the two coin tosses are identical, the tosses are identical, you will not be able to distinguish which is the first one, which is the second one, right? So the way you will collect, so let's for your this one, what we will not have is not headed, head, tail, tail, head, tail, tail. We will have all heads, one head, two tails. That's the way we will write omega. We cannot write HH, HT, TH, TT. That way we cannot write if the coins are not distinguishable from each other. Okay. So if they were not distinguishable, we cannot use this omega. I agree with you. Whatever you said makes sense. But what I'm saying is, if that is the case, if the two coins were actually identical, then we cannot write it omega this way. We have to write both heads, both tails, and one head. That's it. That's the way we write that. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. The outcome has reduced, but we will have to then, so if you have to assign, okay, let's answer your question little systematically. So if we were doing experiment 3 where the coins were distinguishable coins, so if this was distinguishable coins, so what will be the probability here? It will be one fourth, right? This will be one fourth because all the coins are identical, so these outcomes are identical. However, if these two, if you are looking at identical coins, so suppose there was 3 prime which was identical coins, then your omega will be two heads, one head, okay, and zero head. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Now what will be the probability here? This will be one fourth as before. This will be one fourth. One head will happen in two ways. So this will be one half. No, you don't, because if there is exactly one head, there are two ways it can happen, right? So those two ways you just account for it and then write it as one head. Okay, maybe what we will do is we will take this up question tomorrow when we discuss this, and then I will try to explain this with more examples and it will get clear then. So let's just do a quick recap of what we did today. So so what we did was we defined what is probability, which is a mathematical model to think about uncertainties. Then we tried to define what are called the axioms of probability. First is we try to collect all possible outcomes that can happen in the experiment. We call that as omega, and that you should not miss out anything, which is called collectively exhaustive, and it is to be mutually exclusive, which means you cannot take that outcome and divide it into further outcomes. That has to be a single unit which cannot be broken down. Okay, and we saw some examples. Then what we tried to do is like to explain what is meant by probability itself. So that is the axioms. So first thing is the probability has to be non-negative. That means each event happening has to be greater than 0. And then the second thing is that if you think of the sample space as all possible outcomes, then it is definitely necessary that one of the outcomes has to happen. So that is where the second law came in. right? So that was this. Now if you have let's say two mutually disjoint events, the probability that either one of them happens is just the sum of the each of them. So I understand that the axioms we went through a little more quickly than what I would have liked. So what we will do tomorrow is, first we will answer the question about this, about the two coins being simultaneously tossed, which are distinguished, which are undistinguished, and then we will continue from here. Okay, so this is where we will start from tomorrow. So tomorrow again is a day of live classes, so I will continue tomorrow. So today I will announce, I will share the document with you. Then I will also give you some reading. Any questions here, guys? So I have to stop. I don't want to exceed. If there are any quick questions, please let me know. Otherwise, email me. Okay, so we will go through collectively exhaustive again tomorrow. I will do a recap before we start. So tomorrow we continue. Okay. All right, so that's about it. I don't see any other questions. So let's continue tomorrow, same time. Okay, I will share some material for you to go through. Okay, so I hope we have an interesting semester, and thanks for joining the first class. If you have had any problems during the class in terms of connectivity, do let me know. All right then, guys, so we break here. See you tomorrow. Bye bye, guys.